The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra is here, but how does it compare to last year's S23 Ultra, or another top-of-the-line phone, the iPhone 15 Pro Max? Let's break down the specs of each of these devices to see how they stack up. Hopefully this can help those of you looking for a new Android or deciding between Samsung and Apple get a better idea of what phone is right for you. But remember that the specs can only tell us so much, especially since the S24 Ultra has a number of handy AI features not currently found on the S23 Ultra or the iPhone. So subscribe to CNET so you don't miss our full review of the S24 Ultra once we have it in hand. The S23 Ultra started at $1,200 when it was released, but now that the new model's out, you can find the 2023 model for less. The new S24 Ultra starts at $1,300 and the iPhone 15 Pro Max starts at $1,200. So the base S24 Ultra is $100 more than the base 15 Pro Max and $100 more than its predecessor was upon its release. The S24 Ultra features Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, which has been designed to support on-device AI processing. More specifically, the S24 Ultra has a suite of AI features called Galaxy AI. You can, for example, live translate calls or remove unwanted shadows from a picture. You know we'll be putting these features to the test. We also saw AI photo editing tools in Google's Pixel 8 line. For example, there's a Best Take feature that allows you to swap your favorite facial expression from a sequence of pictures into another photo from the same sequence where you maybe don't like your expression as much. The S23 Ultra has last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor, and while it doesn't have Galaxy AI yet, the suite is expected to become available on this phone as well. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has Apple's latest A17 Pro chip. The iPhone doesn't have AI photo editing tools like the S24 Ultra, but I'm interested to see if it ever gets them, especially because AI is such a hot topic right now. The S23 Ultra runs on Android 13 and comes with 4 years of software and security updates. The S24 Ultra runs on Android 14 and comes with 7 years of major OS and security updates. And the iPhone 15 Pro Max runs on iOS 17. While Apple doesn't promise a specific number of years it supports its iPhones with software updates, iOS 17 currently works on models dating back to 2018's iPhone XS and XR. The base S23 Ultra comes with 256 gigabytes of storage and either 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM. You can also upgrade to either 512 gigabyte or 1 terabyte storage options, both with 12 gigabytes of RAM. The S24 Ultra comes with these same storage options, but all of them have 12 gigabytes of RAM. So Samsung nixed to the 8 gigabyte RAM option on its base S24 Ultra model. While Apple doesn't disclose the RAM on its iPhones, the 15 Pro Max comes with these same storage options as the S23 and S24 Ultra. 256 and 512 gigabytes, as well as 1 terabyte. And neither the S23 or S24 Ultra nor the 15 Pro Max have expandable storage. Another similarity I have to point out between the S23 and S24 Ultra and the 15 Pro Max is that all of these phones have a USB-C port. This is worth noting because all iPhones before the iPhone 15s either had Lightning ports or 30-pin connectors. Samsung phones have been on the USB-C wave for years, and for good reason. I have a 15 Pro Max, and it's so nice being able to charge so many devices with the same cable. My phone, my Nintendo Switch, my laptop, and more. Speaking of charging, both Ultras support 45-watt fast charging, while the 15 Pro Max supports 27-watt fast charging. All three phones also support wireless charging, but Samsung phones also support reverse wireless charging, so you can juice up other devices from the back of the phone. And none of the phones include a charging brick in the box. Both the S23 and S24 Ultra have a 5,000 mAh battery. In her S23 Ultra review, CNET's Lisa Edichico found that after 12 hours of use, that is, longer than a full workday, the battery was at 66%. She used the phone to take photos and videos, check her email and social media, and stream some music. You know, normal stuff. The new model is supposed to have a slightly stronger battery because of its new chip. You know we'll be putting the S24 Ultra's battery to the test as well. Apple doesn't disclose battery capacity, but claims the 15 Pro Max has an all-day battery with up to 29 hours of video playback. In his 15 Pro Max review, CNET's Patrick Holland found that after 15 hours of use, the phone usually had 20 to 25% battery left. Now let's discuss design. The S23 and S24 Ultra both come with the S Pen stylus that you can store inside the phone. I really want something like this for the iPhone. I sound like a broken record at this point. Maybe one day. Tim Cook, I hope you're hearing this. The S23 and S24 Ultra have an under-the-screen ultrasonic fingerprint sensor that you can use to unlock them. The 15 Pro Max unlocks with Face ID. The S23 and S24 Ultra both have a 6.8-inch AMOLED display and a 1 to 120 Hz variable refresh rate that changes based on how you're using your phone. So if you're doing something with lots of screen movement, like playing a video game, the refresh rate will increase. But if you switch to an activity that doesn't take a lot of movement, like reading an article, the refresh rate will go down. The S23 Ultra display has a 3088 by 1440 pixel resolution at 500 ppi. At the time of filming this, Samsung has only said that the S24 Ultra has a Quad HD Plus display, which should be around the same 1440 pixel resolution as last year's premium phone. When I get the exact pixel resolution and pixel density specs for the S24 Ultra display, I'll add that information to the article linked in the description. The 15 Pro Max has a 6.7-inch OLED display with a 2796 by 1290 pixel resolution at 460 ppi, and also has a variable refresh rate of 1 to 120 Hz. The S23 and S24 Ultra don't have a notch, just a hole-punch camera at the top of the screen. The 15 Pro Max does have a notch in the form of the Dynamic Island, a little shape-shifting cutout that allows you to view updates from apps like Maps and Clock without needing to have them open. As for how these phones will feel in your hand, the S23 Ultra is 8.9mm thick, the S24 Ultra is 8.6mm thick, and the 15 Pro Max is 8.25mm thick. The S23 Ultra has an aluminum frame and weighs 234 grams. The S24 Ultra and 15 Pro Max have titanium frames and weigh 233 grams and 221 grams, respectively. So the S23 Ultra is slightly thicker and heavier than the S24 Ultra and the 15 Pro Max, and has an aluminum versus titanium frame. All three of these phones are rated IP68, so they're water and dust resistant. The S23 and S24 Ultra cameras are pretty similar. Both phones have a 4-camera system. There's a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera with an f2.2 lens, a 200-megapixel wide camera with an f1.7 lens, and a 10-megapixel telephoto camera with an f2.4 lens and a 3x optical zoom. Both phones also have another telephoto camera, but the one on the S23 Ultra is 10 megapixels with an f4.9 lens and a 10x optical zoom, while the one on the S24 Ultra is 50 megapixels with an f3.4 lens and a 5x optical zoom. The big difference here is that the S24 Ultra's zoom photos should be sharper, and both phones have a 12-megapixel front camera with an f2.2 lens for taking your selfies. So the S23 and S24 Ultra cameras are basically the same except for that new 50-megapixel, 5x optical zoom telephoto camera. The iPhone 15 Pro Max features a 3-camera system. It has a 48-megapixel main camera with an f1.78 lens, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera with an f2.2 lens, and a 12-megapixel telephoto camera with an f2.8 lens and a 5x optical zoom. And for your selfies, there's a 12-megapixel front camera with an f1.9 lens. So both the S24 Ultra and the 15 Pro Max have a 5x optical zoom, but the sensor on the Ultra has a higher resolution. Of course, stay tuned for our camera test to see how the S24 Ultra camera performs in real life and how it compares to the 15 Pro Max camera. The S23 Ultra can record up to 4K 60 on the front and back cameras, as well as 8K at 30 frames per second. The iPhone 15 Pro Max can record up to 4K video at 24, 25, 30, or 60 frames per second on the front and back cameras. As I'm filming this, we don't have video capture specs for the S24 Ultra, but I'll also add that info into the article in the description once it's available. Finally, let's go over another very important aspect of these phones: colors. The S23 Ultra comes in cream, lavender, phantom black, and green. There are also Samsung.com exclusive colorways: red, sky blue, graphite, and lime. The S24 Ultra comes in black, yellow, violet, and gray. And the Samsung.com exclusive colorways for this model are green, blue, and orange. The 15 Pro Max comes in 4 colors: natural gray, blue, white, and black. And that, my friend, is how the specs of the Galaxy S23 and S24 Ultra, as well as the iPhone 15 Pro Max, compare. Once again, subscribe to CNET for more on the S24 Ultra once we have it in hand, and thank you so much for watching.